Oh, episode 2 of Andor was good. Slower than the first episode, but more character introduction, which is needed because obviously this is something I actually didn't realize this until I had finished watching the second episode because I've tried to avoid spoilers and things of that nature. There's going to be 12 episodes in this first season, and that's a lot more than like these other like the Obi-Wan show that had what 6 and like there's 8 and other ones. This one gets 12, so we're actually getting a good run that's going through, I guess, until November. So I'm strapping in for the long haul now, ladies and gentlemen. Like this is pretty dope. So yeah, this was a slower episode, but obviously we're getting introductions to more characters and a lot more depth to the ones we have. So we're getting ready to get all of that reviewed here. First and foremost, spoiler alert. Okay, I am not spoiler free, so I'm going to be talking about the episode, talking about the plot lines, storylines, everything that's kind of going along from point to point. This is your last chance. This is a spoiler filled episode. Walk away now if you don't want things spoiled. Before we go any further, thanks to all of these amazing people for being supporters of the channel and keeping the lights on the internet paid and me full time on YouTube. You can support by dropping super thanks down on this video, $2, $5, whatever you can. Consider me like another Disney Plus or Netflix subscription. You can also join as a member of the Adventurers Guild down there. More information at the end on the other ways you can support, and of course, like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get more updates like this as we continue to review this show and others. Dun dun dun, your spoiler review is done. We're off to the actual episode. So, we're getting more backstory here, and I like the way this is doled out because we do get finally towards the end of this episode and an explanation of what's going on, which was good because, or at least some of the backstory of the planet of Canary, but not at first. And I like the pacing on this because when we start off, it's the kids exploring right away, and we get this view of a massive quarry that looks abandoned with like machines falling down and everything else, which leaves us with questions like, what happened here? The music is particularly telling as well because as we're panning out over this shot of an abandoned quarry, and we've got Cassian as a young child standing there, we see these machines that have been abandoned. It looks like they've been there for a long time. And with that, the music kicks up, and it's very tragic music. So we obviously know that something bad happened here. We just don't know what. And we do get a reveal later on in the episode, which I thought was a really cool way to do it because they're not just dumping it all on us at once. We're getting it doled out to us over time. So, again, this show is being put together by veterans of TV. So it's very good pacing from my perspective. The plot lines work very well together. Um, I got a chuckle though with the Hammerman and the alarm. This guy takes his job way too seriously. Just like, boom, boom, boom. And he shows up a couple of times in the episode, and each time I get a chuckle out of it because he is really into his job. It's just a cool visual element here. And the shots here in the morning, I think, are really cool. The way we've got like the various residents going about their daily routines, which establishes normalcy for the characters as well as normalcy for this village because this mining community, because you know that shit's about to get hot here in a little bit. So we're establishing that everyone is normal, everyone's at peace, everything's tranquil, and when the proverbial shit hits the fan, people are going to react differently because of their tranquil existence and the way they've kind of grown up and everything else. Um, it shows the simplicity of everybody's lives, and then we get Cassian walking the streets furtively. The girl is already at the mechanic shop. Bix is her character's name. Um, Checking messages. Something has her spooked. Her boyfriend's more sus than before because he comes in as she's searching, and he asks her what's up, and she's like, "Oh, nothing. Hey, how are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, why don't we do something tonight?" And she's like, "Oh, I thought it was supposed to only be once a week. How about tomorrow night?" And he's like, "Okay, then let's make a plan." And then she ducks out, and he goes and reads the terminal, and what does he see? It's the report from it's the APB from the previous episode that the inspector, just deputy inspector, sent out looking for a Canary person, uh, dark complexion, wanted for questioning, suspect, report immediately. And so now he has a reason. Like he's being given a reason now that I already don't like this Cassian guy because he's hanging around with my girlfriend and I view him as a threat. But now he's been given a reason to want to report him to the authorities, which you know he's going to do, and he totally does later on in the episode. But it's a little cliched, but it works. Like, it's not bad. because it does make sense. Um, so in any case, and then we get this scene where I didn't realize that there was going to be like a mother figure to Cassian. So we're now getting this introduction to a new character who is apparently his adopted mom. And she's with the droid, and Cassian shows up, and he's feeding her this line of BS about where he's been and what's been going on. And she just stops him, and she's like, "Read it to him." And the droid's like, "Am I allowed to speak now?" And she's like, "Read it." And it's the message that we just heard from the tel system, the comm system, what they're looking for someone from Canary. And then there's this sequence here where she's freaking out. Who else knows that you were born on Canary? Cassian's looking a little freaked. Then the robot says your mechanic friend Bix is looking for you. The old lady's screaming at him, "What have you done?" And he's like, "I messed up." So he's obviously starting to feel the pressure here. Um, and there's obviously backstory because the this mother, which I believe her name is Marva, she's yelling at him because they wanted to keep their identity a secret, so they're supposed to be telling everybody they're from this other planet, and he can't remember who he told, and he's like, "You told people as well," and she goes, "Yeah, but I told family." But it's like, well, who are these family members? Because we haven't met anybody else yet. They're living off on this planet in the middle of nowhere, and they're keeping everything secret. So I'm really curious, why are they keeping it secret? Why does it matter that he's from Kunari? Why does it matter any of this? What is going on that they have to keep their identity secret? And it's apparently not just Cassian, it's also his adopted mother. So, I'm intrigued by what's going on here. Um, we meet up with Bix in the tavern. She says the buyer's on the way, so it's time to get prepped. Now, while this is happening, the boyfriend sees that they're meeting together, and this is the moment when he does go report to the authorities, and that's when we get over to a new character we're introduced to as the deputy inspector is here, listening to a report from his underlings, and we see the girl from the brothel being brought in as they look at this hollow image of a guy named Cassian Andor, who it says he was born somewhere else, not in Canary, but he matches the description, and the girl can identify him from the brothel. And then we get introduced to this sergeant who appears to be a hardline soldier who's all about following the rules, and you got to crush that insurrection, sir. It's been fomenting, corporate line of defense is the first line of defense for the Imperials. Let's go get this guy. And our deputy inspector is very naive to all of this, so he's asking the guy, "How many men should we take?" The guy's like, "Take 12, sir." And should I accompany them? "Yes, you should, sir. Lead the charge, sir." So this guy is the sharpened blade that the deputy inspector is looking for, and these guys are zealots at this point. Obviously, this is going to go bad, 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 bad way. Um, we see Cassian at his ship home in this abandoned ship, and he's preparing this Imperial device, which is like this thing that he got from a ship, and it looks in pristine condition. And this is obviously what he's selling to the buyer who's coming in. But as he sits down, he's got a blaster in his hand, and he's looking completely tortured. And this leads to another flashback, um, where we're going to the events of his childhood, and they show up at the ship, and there's soldiers there with a blaster, and he's blasting at them, and they're shooting like blow darts at the guy until he finally falls down, but he ends up killing one of the kids. And it's a very traumatic memory for him, obviously, because it was the first time he had gone on like a mission with these kids. Because he was like a younger one who was finally getting old enough to go with them. So these memories are very traumatic for him, and we're obviously leading towards the separation of him and his sister. But it's very interesting the way that they're doling this out over time. And then we get an introduction to the buyer, which is Stellan Skarsgård, which I already know he's gonna. This guy's great. I love everything he does. This guy is a brilliant actor. I remember the first thing I saw him first thing I remember seeing him in was Good Will Hunting. But then he did just brilliant roles over the years. I remember there's a movie called Ronin with Robert De Niro and a bunch of other. Sean Bean was in it and everything else. And Stellan plays like a character in that film as well. Um, Brilliant actor, and of course he's the buyer. He's obviously the buyer, and his character's named Luthen. And I know from the trailers and stuff that he's got like a spy history. So he arrives, lands outside of town. Obviously, doesn't want anybody to know he's here to buy this Imperial thing. And we finally get the backstory here. as on Konari as Cassian's character shows up to bum a ride from this buddy of his who works at like a transport agency or something, and they're talking about the report, and the guy's like, "Do you know anybody from Konari?" "Oh, no, I don't know anybody from Konari." "What's Konari?" "Oh, Konari was this mining outpost for the Empire. There's a huge mining accident happened. Everyone died. The Empire declared it as a toxic planet, prohibited anyone from going there, and that was the revelation that we've been given." So one of the reasons I guess that we're seeing this village of kids living in the woods is because all of their parents died in the mining accident, and they've been forced to live and survive as kids in the woods. So it's going to be very interesting what the ship was that crashed and more information and all of this. So I'm enjoying that. I think the uh, the corporal ship design was pretty cool as they're coming in. There's this whole speech about, the risk of doing nothing is blah 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 blah. A little bit cliched, but it's showing the sense of duty that these guys have as they go hunt down this fugitive that they're looking for. And then we meet again Stellan's character riding into town in a transport, and there's this old timer who's having a conversation with them, and it's sort of a benign conversation, but it leads towards this line of dialogue, which is, um, uh, whatever you're looking for here, if you can't find it, it ain't worth finding. And then we flash to Andor running through the junkyard, obviously on his way to something important. So we know that that's what he's looking for. So he's not just going to find the um, thing he wants to buy. As I understand, he's also going to find Cassian and introduced him to the life of being a spy for the rebellion. Because we kind of do have a little foreshadowing because we've seen Rogue One and we know where this character is heading. So um, all in all, again, great solid episode. More character development leading into this third episode that I'm going to be having coming out later today. So hopefully you'll stay tuned for that. Again, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get more like this. Thanks to all of these people who are amazing supporters. You too can support. It's very simple. Drop a super thanks, $2, $5, whatever. You can also join as a member of the Adventurers Guild down there for $2.99 a month. It's a great way to support my channel. I am fully supported by the community, and I'm allowed to do this full time because of all of you. Thank you very much. You can also hit up our Patreon page for the World of the Weave and the Void, which is that world map behind me. My brother, my wife, and I are building that. Patreon.com/Wandering Hermit. There are links down below somewhere. Anyway, check it all out. See everybody in the next episode. Happy viewing!